Welcome to our chief debate. This is the San Angelo Live Police Chief Forum, and thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. We as an organization do our part, try to do our part to inform you as to what's going on in the community. Sometimes we do a great job, sometimes we don't. But tonight I think we did a good job, and I'm glad to see the crowd here. A couple of things. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer, and then we'll get into the program. So if you'll stand as you're able and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And now Tom Green County Sheriff Nick Hanna will have our invocation.
Thank you. You bow your head, please. Almighty Father, we come to you before today. Come to you today as we prepare for this police chief debate. We ask you to grant us wisdom, clarity, and discernment as we discuss important matters concerning San Angelo's safety and our well-being. Guide our words and our actions that they may reflect justice, fairness, and compassion. Bless all those involved in this debate, including the candidates, the moderators, and the audience members. And may your peace reign in this gathering. And may we each seek solutions that honor you and serve the common good. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Okay, we do have some rules, and then we'll introduce the candidates. Before we do that, though, voting is so vital to this country and to our nation, our state, and our county. And I'm glad to see that Bruce Burkett's here because he's got a recount going this Saturday and this Sunday. We have 2 recounts. One of them is by one vote. One vote. One vote matters. And you guys are the choir. You're here. You're going to go out and vote in the chief election. And I applaud you for that. And take somebody with you. You know, in 2016, when the police chief election was held, there were 3 candidates. There were 4 candidates. And there was a runoff. In the initial election in May, there were 9,120-something votes cast out of 50,000 registered voters in the city. 9,000. In the runoff in June of that year, 2016, there were just over 10,000 votes cast. About a fifth of the registered voters. So the governance falls to us. The voters choose who leads and who the elected officials are in this city, in this county, in this state, and in this nation. So go out and vote. And this election is just as critical as any you'll ever vote in. Now I'll get off my soapbox a little bit. The rules for tonight are simple. We have 3 candidates, so they're going to get 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Tracy King is going to be timing them. And I've told 1 or 2 of them this, but because they're in law enforcement, we're going to warn them 3 times. The first is just a friendly reminder, we're running out of time. The second is going to be a stern warning. And the third, I'm just going to have them taste. Anyway, they have 3 minutes to introduce themselves, and then Joe Hyde is the moderator. He's going to ask the questions, and he will ask an individual question, and that person will have 3 minutes for an answer, and then each candidate will have a 1-minute rebuttal. And we'll go through this until we get through. I don't know how many questions Joe has, but I can guarantee you it's more than a handful. Anyway, now let's introduce the candidates. I think first we have
Chris Cimino.
Chris Cimino. Chris will be sitting on this end of the table. Chris, thanks for being here. Lieutenant Chris Cimino. Lieutenant Mike Hernandez. And Sergeant Travis Griffith. Gentlemen, I spent a little time on the campaign trail, and I applaud you. It's not easy. It takes you, it takes your family, it takes your village, it takes your entire community. And win, lose, or draw, I applaud you for doing that and for stepping up and taking on this challenge. It's a tough role, and not everybody will do it. So I applaud you for doing that. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Go ahead and have a seat. We'll get started. Joe Hyde, you are on the
Hi.
line.
Does this microphone work? I don't know. I can't hear myself. Can y'all hear me? No. Come on, trade wind sound. Testing. Hello? No? I'm gonna have to yell really loud? What's that? I don't have another mic.
I'm right here, sir.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Nothing? I'm going to the podium. How's that sound? No. Man, I have to now improvise, overcoming the doubt. All right, Lieutenant Cimino. I talked to police chief, the current police chief, Frank Carter, and he said that between 2018 and 2023, the Part 1 crime rate went down 48% in San Angelo, Texas. Do you agree with that number? What caused the crime rate to go down, if it went down at all? And what will you do as chief to make sure it doesn't go back up?
We have introductions.
Oh, you know,
Way to jump the gun, Sparky.
I jumped the gun. I did. Now I've exposed my first answer. Oh, no. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself with that question, and y'all can have 3 minutes on that question. How's that sound?
Where's our timer, lady?
That would be
There you go. Okay.
That would be me.
My name is Chris Cimino. I'm a lieutenant with the San Angelo Police Department. My name is Chris Cimino. I'm a lieutenant with the San Angelo Police Department. I've been employed with the PD since 2005. Before that, I grew up most of my life in Big Spring, Texas. Graduated high school in 1994. Can y'all hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. Once I graduated high school, I joined the Marine Corps and served as an infantryman in Alpha Company 1st Battalion 5th Marines as an 0351 until 1998. I got my honorable discharge, kept in contact with the woman who would become my wife, 25 years almost. And we ended up getting married in 1999. While we were getting married, I went to college, got a degree in anthropology from Texas Tech University. Trying, brother. This one work? Nope. But after I got out of college and graduated with my degree, I came to San Angelo. It was a nice town. I'd been here visiting my mother, who was a resident for a little while, and kind of just enjoyed it. I work with, thank you, sir. I work with Ron Sohoff or Soha Electric. Is this better? Okay. From 2003 to 2005. Had a great time, and if you had a house built between 2003 and 2005, there's a good chance I probably wired it for you. Once I decided I wanted to be a cop, I've served as a patrol officer, a training officer, as an FTO and PTO and a PTI. Served in honor guard for a couple of years. Went to the narcotics division to serve as a detective, served as a CID detective, promoted to sergeant. My first year as a sergeant, I was awarded Supervisor of the Year, and then became a K-9 sergeant and handler for a couple of years, promoted to lieutenant, and have been in charge of Charles Company, Edward Company, the Lake Division, and the K-9 Division since. When we had all those riots and issues going on, the chief decided it was time to invent a anti-riot company in case we had any issues like that in town. So I headed that up and was the commander for that unit until recently. There you go, Mike. Or does yours work?
I believe this one's working.
Here you go, brother.
So Lieutenant Mike Hernandez, I've been with the department 33 and a half years. I'm former Marine, or as we say, Marine. I started on patrol. If you remember back in the early 90s, we started a gang unit. We had about 30 gangs and 900 gang members documented, and we shut the gangs down in San Angelo. We also started the very first SWAT team in the fall of '93. I was one of the original members, and I was on that team for 20 years, and I was in charge of our team for 10 of my 20 years. I went on to narcotics for quite a few years. That was very interesting and lots of things. And then we created the first ever special operations section. I got to start that team from the ground up, went around the state to see who had the best, and San Antonio had the best, and that's what we did. We implemented our team, and it was quite successful. I was then asked by the administration at that time if I'd be willing to take the test and try to promote to lieutenant. I really didn't want to, but I'm glad I did, because you end up aging out, if you will, of the go get the bad guys and go run after them and things like that. It's a young man's game, if you will. I've had 4 operations for this police department, for this community, and it was somebody else's turn. I'm currently lieutenant of our criminal investigation division. I also oversee our CSI, evidence, and criminal analyst sections, and I'm also our critical incident commander. And if you watched the news about 3.5 weeks ago, we had an incident up by the San Angelo State University where we were able to track down a pretty violent subject, and it was brought to a safe resolution. From the time that I left the house to the time I returned, it was 5.5 hours. I had 41 men under my command, a few lieutenants, a handful of sergeants, and everybody was safe, and that was a good thing for us all because it was within the ASU campus. Thank you.
My name is Travis Griffith, and I want to thank everybody for being here today. Test 1, 2. Kind of cutting in and out there. Good. This mic up here?
Yeah, just get up there on the podium. How's that?
Spit some rhymes while you're up there, Travis.
I want to thank everybody for being here today. This is a tough spot to be for all of us guys that are running, and thank all the family members and officers that are supporting. It's rough, so thank you for being here. This matters. You matter, and votes do matter. Kind of like what Yantis was talking about. I want to address something real quick in my time before I get super started. Fundamentally, I'm an unapologetic follower of Jesus Christ. It's who I am. And I struggle with this because it was public. I didn't know how to do this, but I had a lot of people reaching out because me and Joe have had a few back and forths. And I don't think Joe had any intention of I don't know, say, testing my character or calling me out for my integrity or anything. So I just want to say, Joe, publicly, I don't hold any ill will, and I forgive you if there was any ill intent, and know that at the Tea Party there was some back and forth in regards to my integrity. My family is my next most important thing that I have, unapologetically. Like they are who I lean on outside the Lord. My wife is a 4th grade teacher. My daughter is 19 years old. She's here right down the back. We have a brand new baby boy, and he's amazing, and I'm blessed to be there. I know that as we move through this time frame, that God has a plan for this, and I'm trusting wholeheartedly in His sovereign plan, and that's why I don't want there to be anybody saying anything bad about anybody. I want to be level playing field, and know that we have to be better. San Angelo is a group of people that stand for being something different. And I don't want there to be a lot of people have reached out in regard to that, so that's why I want to clear that up. I've been in law enforcement for over 2 decades. I've been in and around city government for about 25 years. And I know that I'm the right candidate because I've done tough jobs. All of us have been in very similar positions. We've been in specialized divisions. hostage negotiation, SWAT team, special operations group, all those things that Mike talked about. And I just want to say that it's not about the time and grade. Right? It's about capacity. Right? If we're talking about time and grade, then I guess Nancy Pelosi should be the Speaker of the House. Right? It's not about that. It's about what can you do. I ran internal affairs for 2 years. I stood on principle, stood on the fact that I'm going to do the right thing for the right reason. And I believe here in San Angelo that we can stand together, stand for justice, and stand for something different. Thank you. God bless.
So, we didn't answer the question. Crime rate's down 48% since 2018. Why is it? And what will you do to make sure it doesn't come back up? And we'll start with Mr. Lieutenant Chimino.
Well, Sammy Clemenson probably said it best. There's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. Has the crime rate gone down? It depends on how you decide you want to work with the statistics. Has the call volume gone down? No. As a police chief, how would I do that? You'd see everything. You would have those statistics published to you so you could review them yourself. There's no more hiding behind anything. It's going to be out there for you guys to see. That's what our government should do from the top down to our level, and even below us. I mean, you guys deserve to know what's going on in your community. This is your home. It's our home as well. And you guys need to know what's going on.
So, I told you when I started, I supervise a criminal analyst, and yes, the crime rate is down. In fact, the last 2 years, in 2022, it went up 4%, but then 2023 it went down 4%. But the total over the 6-year period since 2017, it is down 48.8%. And with that being said, these are public. This is public. You can go to this. This is what we report to the FBI. And the reason that we're so successful, I believe, is because the criminal analysts in our every other week command staff meetings, we, as lieutenants over the divisions, meet to discuss where the hot spots, what's going on in town, and where the most crime is at. And between patrol and our activity crime unit, which is the old special operations section, which I started from the ground up, are very successful in locating and making the arrests that are necessary to stop the crime. But sadly, we arrest a group of 4 to 6 and another group of 4 to 6 pop up. We arrest and they're out before we finish our reports. We arrest and arrest and arrest, and we do the best we can with what we have. And I believe we're successful because we have good officers. And how will I keep that up or make it better is we've got to fill the 16 to 20 spots that are open right now, motivate these guys, do attaboys, lead by example, on and on and on. Try to give them everything they need to be successful in what we do.
I'm going to bring it to you. See if that works.
1 2 1 2 test. 1 2 test.
It's working. All right. Good deal.
There's no reason to doubt the data that's there for sure. As we move forward, kind of touching on what Mike said, is that training, bringing training up to a new level, being able to deploy the resources where we need them, using technology to be able to look at what we can do to help fight crime in your neighborhood. I really want to create what's called a Chiefs Advisory Board. It's not it's a average folks just like you that can come in and hear what kind of data that we're seeing monthly, what kind of crime we're seeing, so that way you're informed as to what is happening in your community. I think that the more that we're open and transparent about that, the more that you'll see that we can't hide behind anything. We're going to be real and open and fight crime together, because you can't police any society without their consent. If not, you're talking about Russia, right? We don't want to be Russia. We want to be able to work together and partner with each other. So working through that to be able to get that data out there, and then also hearing where you're at. How many times do crimes go unreported that we don't know about? Working through that connection to the community is what matters.
All right. Next question. The most aggravating crime that all of us have experienced is petty theft kind of crimes, where your laptop gets stolen out of your pickup truck in your driveway, or your handgun gets stolen out of something, you know, those kinds of things that really hit you personally, but they don't necessarily drive up the crime rate that you report to the FBI necessarily. But that's, I call them the petty crimes, the ones that are just, you know, annoying. What kind of policies do you think we could add to the San Angelo Police Department to watch for trends in those types of crimes? And also, I mean, obviously, there are probably those situations where the police officer has to go to stand in someone's driveway and take a police report and doesn't have a whole lot of information. But how would you handle that? Would you handle it any differently than it's doing now? How would you measure whether or not that's becoming a problem in San Angelo? We're talking about petty crimes where people's trucks, pickup trucks are getting robbed, burglarized in their driveway. Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
So when I first started, burglary of a vehicle was actually a felony, and it became a misdemeanor. And I believe that it became a misdemeanor because the folks that make the law are usually behind a gate or a garage door, things of that nature. And I don't think that they're petty because today gang members are looking for weapons in cars. And in the 90s, they had flashlights and tools of the trade, if you will. Now they've got phones, so they don't need the flashlight. They use porcelain, I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but different ways to break in to your cars, and they're looking for weapons, and so they're not petty. But I think we have the things in place, but maybe more public announcements, maybe visiting with the community, because today still we have about 80% that continue to be unlocked. We have 5 to 6 weapons burglarized or stolen out of burglary vehicles a week. So it continues to happen, but we got to get out there. We've got to get out in front of it. We've got to ask for cooperation from the community.
Mr. Griffith?
You know, there's a lot of things we can do in regards to technology. I think the key thing, though, is that, you know, we call it petty, but it's not petty to the people that their stuff's got taken, right? It's not petty to them, and that a lot of times, you know, when you go to different calls, you look at the situation, you think, to me, it might not be as much, but to those folks that you're going to, it matters. And so making sure we put our best foot forward, applying good training. There's touch DNA options out there that we can look at trying to run pilot programs through. There's camera systems that we can utilize to put in neighborhoods that will alert us when people walk through neighborhoods during the night hours. And then we can look at what Mike touched on was advocacy, right? Working together. Imagine if we have 50 plus people in a chief's advisory that's able to be that voice for those that might not want to come to us, that might not have reported crime, that can give us the data points that we don't even know exist. And then also encourage them to tell their friends to lock their doors, put things up. Because together we can be better.
And Chimino.
Need a microphone.
What's that?
Microphone.
Oh, need a microphone. Try that microphone, see if it's working.
Hello.
Nope.
All right. Our PIOs actually do a very good job. Mike's daughter is one of them. And keeping the public informed, they make sure to put out bulletins on our website. And when they go around to schools and everything else, they actually tell people, hey, this is what's going on. These are the neighborhoods that are being hit. Make sure you're locking your doors. Another thing we can do on patrol is have more patrol officers. My shifts, I'm down by 1 on Charles Company. And then when people call in sick or they got on vacation, we just don't have the people to man the streets. We don't have enough manpower out there. It's a very simple solution is we need more officers. Another thing you could do is just make sure if you have cameras outside of your house and make sure you're sharing that information with the officers. If you see somebody moving around on your property and it's in a high crime area, say, hey, there's a neighborhood sharing app where you can share the videos that are going on in your neighborhood. Make sure you're sharing those. And when you call our dispatchers, give them the best information you can.
And in 2017, the San Angelo Police Department transitioned from something that was called sector policing, where they divided the city into 4 quadrants, and they went to what they call district policing, where they divided it up into squares, 8 squares. And so this question is for Travis Griffith. Does the 8 districts work better than the sector, or should we go back to sector?
I think appropriate sizing is one thing I'd look at. We went back and forth on this, and ultimately looking at the data, I think working with that data and looking what the response times would be and getting back to a smaller district that's a little bit more appropriate could be a great answer in that. But again, if we don't have officers to address the issue, then that's the real problem. You can have all the districts or sectors or spots out there, but you have to have people that are able to man those. So working, and I will say that we have some great recruiters and we have some great officers that individually try to go out there and try to get people to come to work for us. And the more that and I want to say thank you to the city and anybody else that worked towards getting us that raise. The association over here, thank you guys for everything you did. That's a lot. But we're still almost $20,000 below some of these other benchmark cities. So the more that we can push towards putting officers that will fill those districts, and then you can address the issues of how well can we respond versus a sector versus a district versus what size that is.
So I'm going to interject here a little bit. So if we don't have the officers to man 8 districts, should we go back to sectors? Because sectors allows more flexibility of your manpower.
Is that to me, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that in regards to that, you can have a portionate town. Like, so Sector 1 was anything above the loop, right? Anything above the loop, you can have a bunch of officers over in one corner and not getting the coverage you need if you're living at, let's say, Bradford and 25th Street. All the officers are over on one part of town. So having a beat, if you will, a district is important to have them be able to patrol the areas that are necessary. And partnering with that data, you can move your officers, but it has to be done correctly if you're going to do it.
Mr. Cimino, I'm going to follow up with that. Do we have enough officers to handle 8 districts, or should we go back to sector? I have to give you the microphone too.
Yes, sir, you do.
I'm sorry about the sound problem. That's a first for us.
So, do we have enough officers for 8 districts? Sometimes. It really depends on if people are sick or if they're on vacation. If you just go by the day-to-day data, no, we don't. But if you look at the geographical boundaries when we were under the sectors, they were huge. You would have to, I worked as an officer and a sergeant, as a lieutenant. The sectors didn't work, they were too big. You would be over here and you would have to go code all the way across town, putting yourself and other people at risk. Why would we do that? With what dispatch is doing now, it's geographic dispatching. They can see where every officer is on their map and they send the closest ones. But do we have enough officers for anything? Not really.
And Mike Hernandez, districts or sectors, do we have enough officers for all those districts?
We have enough as far as, when the districts, even 2 districts per sector are smaller than the sector. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, the dispatch are able to see where those officers are at. There's just tricks of the trade that you learn, just like the bad guys learn where the officers are at. If officers are denting up or sitting somewhere and a sergeant, first line supervisor, is tasked with watching his troops, they need to get out there and get them on the move. It's what I used to do when I was a sergeant and lieutenant on patrol. There are those that just, I don't even know how to put this, monotonous, complacent, if you will. It's in my goals as far as the improved discipline of we have enough officers. And what we need to do is just maintain that discipline in reference to taking ownership of those districts and realizing that you're tasked with the responsibility of patrolling and trying to capture bad guys doing bad things. And so, yes, I believe we do, because often supervisors show up at scenes and have to put officers back on patrol as far as too many at one scene, and we get these complaints all the time. And so that's just some of the things that would help, but we are short. We're short across the board. I'm short for detectives, and somehow, some way, we're still doing the job. But we're losing good officers throughout the state.
And can I just add on one, you said we could interject there. I just want, just in case you see somebody.
Just one interjection,
that's all you get. That's all you get. Just because you see an officer in the parking lot, though, don't think that you're just screwing off. They could be typing 5 reports. It is case by case, but I just don't want you to think as the public that just because somebody's in a parking lot that they're over there they're just not doing their job. That that's where they type. That's their office, right? So they'll just know that. That's all I want to add.
All right, Lieutenant Cimino, it's your turn now. Kind of dovetail off that question. Another big change with the police department in 2017 was going to 12-hour shifts. meaning that the police officers work a certain number of days of 12-hour shifts and have more days off, I guess. But what I understand is that they were able to cut down on overtime, a lot of the overtime expense. But there was still belly aching about 12-hour shifts when they should transition to it. Now we've had almost 6 years to look at it. What is 12-hour shifts the way to go, or do you have another idea of how to manage the workforce?
Having talked to the officers, I got 37 of them assigned to me. They like the 12-hour shifts. They like having more time off. They enjoy having that extra day off with their family. Is it hard? It can be. But, I mean, does it help with overtime? Somewhat. I worked 20 hours of overtime last week. It just depends on what you have. Edward Company, I had to send 3 officers home sick. So I had 5 officers on the street. That's it. So, no, we don't have enough officers. Do I like them? I like having the extra day off with my family. I enjoy it. They enjoy seeing me. It's good. Would some officers prefer 10s? Yes. But with the 12-hour shift configuration, every officer gets to have that a weekend. They get to have that alternating Saturday, so they can enjoy that with their family. That way, when their kids are out of school and their wife's off work, they get a day together as a family.
And Lieutenant Hernandez, what do you think about 12-hour shifts? Good, bad? Would you make them go away?
Well, I don't think I'd make them go away. I agree with the extra time off. The officers do need their time off. It does make for a long day, so that if they do work overtime, which a lot of officers do, if they do a half day somewhere, then that's 16 hours, which is the max that an officer can work in a day. It makes for a very tired officer, and so they are looking forward to their days off. We just had a rookie class hit the street a couple weeks ago, and one of the officers, one of the rookies, right off the bat decided after the first week of 312s that he was done because he was tired. It's just a different day, and where we used to work 20 and 30 hours trying to make a living extra a week, it's almost become the norm now of what a standard rotation is today. So I don't think I'd make it go away, because you've got 80% of our departments less than 5 years, and they're enjoying their every other weekend day off.
And Sergeant Griffith?
Yeah, I think that there's some definite positives to 12-hour shifts, but at the end of the day, that's a long time, and at one point it become dangerous to the officers. I think working with them and being able to create an officer's advisory that's inside there, that people can look in what do you want to see happen, what is good for you and your family, to get their input. And I think that you can see that 10-hour shifts is something that is definitely worth looking at. It's what the majority of our departments on outside of patrol. It provides a kind of a happy balance in between those two. You just have to be able to see if you can actually staff it appropriately based off of where we're at. And also kind of what Mike alluded to is that you're able to get better quality of work out of what you currently have, and see if that's available. Because with a 10-hour shift, you can work with a training day, which a lot of departments are moving back to provide consistent training in the areas of deficiencies. So that way you have a better product of an officer that's out there in the field, even though you may have one less officer that's actually responding to calls.
And now I'd like to interject, sir.
Well, so polling the three of you, I have Cimino and Hernandez are 4 12-hour shifts. You're saying I'm open to 10-hour shifts?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Is that what
Yeah,
we're
that's,
saying?
that's correct.
Okay. And how hard are you going to work toward getting to 10-hour shifts and changing the entire workforce?
It's going to be based off of manpower. So when we get there, strategic planning to get to a point to where this is where we're trying to get to for the betterment of the morale of the officers. I think anybody that works 10s knows it's better than a 12, because you're still able to get 3 days off, and you're able to have the ability to not work past that that magic number of 10, 12 hours.
All right, Lieutenant Hernandez, go ahead and interject, but also answer, do we have a morale problem with 12-hour shifts?
I don't think we have a morale problem. But in reference to the 10s, we worked 10s before. And I just said we had 80% less than 5 years. Those officers that are enjoying their every other weekend off, their day, they would lose it. They would be off on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they wouldn't get a weekend. The senior officers would get the weekends off.
Okay, so.
That would be, that depends on what your configuration is. So like what Abilene's using.
The 12-hour shifts are pretty much give everybody, the lowest ranking officer, a weekend off.
Absolutely.
Saturday off.
Yes, sir.
Well, no, so you're either off on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, or you're off on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. That's your days off.
With every other Saturday.
Alternate Saturdays.
Before I get too confused about 12-hour shifts, we're gonna go on to the next subject.
Yeah.
Because I'm glad I don't have to work 12-hour shifts, and that's why we should thank our police officers, because they've probably been out there. I've asked y'all this question before, but I rephrased it this time, okay? Over the past 4 years, by the way, any of you guys on Delta 8 tonight, or any of those weird drugs you can buy in the stores? I hope not. Anyway, over the past 4 years, there have been at least 4 murders where marijuana was a factor. Primarily, it was caused by, someone ripped off the party, or maybe it was just a drug deal that was gone bad. Is legalization or decriminalization of marijuana a good thing or bad thing for the San Angelo Police Department? And do you personally want to at least decriminalize marijuana at some level? And I guess we're on Mike.
Oh, okay.
Lieutenant Hernandez.
So I shared this other night. I arrested my brother over 25 years ago for a bank robbery, and he started with marijuana. So I'm not about legalizing marijuana. I believe it's a stepping stone to worse. And if you take a look at the states that have legalized it, they've got their issues, and we don't need them here.
So that would be a no.
Correct.
Sergeant Griffith.
Yeah, so I think that as we look at this realistically, it's not our decision, right? I mean, we can advocate. One thing that is undoubtedly true is that alcohol, marijuana, and other drugs lead to dependency. And I think that's where it's important for us to partner with those that are in our community, because we have, on our side, we're really good at taking care of the distribution side. You have supply and demand, right? Working with those that are on the demand side to prevent drug addiction and to prevent those that are actually in addiction, and working with our community partners that are in that area to help any way we can to support them through that mission, whether that means helping them get a job or getting a place in the community to get them back away from drugs would help lower that. When it comes to whether or not we're going to legalize marijuana or something, it's not our decision. We're going to enforce what the laws of the state of Texas are, and I believe that's where the people get to speak. That's where your vote would matter.
And Chris, can I give you the microphone?
You do, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're not legislators. We don't make the law. We enforce it. It's not our job to really even say, I like it or I don't like it. I think we should legalize it or don't legalize it. That's not our place. Our job is to enforce the laws that your legislators that you voted in the office put on the books. That's our only job. We shouldn't be even considering whether we like it or not. We should just do our job.
No interjections? None?
Oh, I thought we only had one, sir.
All right. I don't know if Mayor Brenda Gunder's not here, but I'm going to dedicate this next question to her. In a budget session late last year, she started speaking about, she was looking at data. She was looking at the data for the municipal court for the city of San Angelo. Noticed that ticket revenue was down pretty significantly. And she said there's a trend of it going down. And she wanted to know why this ticket revenue is going down. I don't think the mayor was trying to say, y'all need to write more tickets. I think she was just asking the question. So I'll ask you the question, Sergeant Griffith, why is ticket revenue down at the municipal court?
Well, at the same time, traffic stops were up. We get to decide what we're going to do in regards to whether that's a citation, a warning, or that is a written warning. The crashes were also down. That's not the one thing, especially for those that maybe don't have the money to afford a citation. Sometimes a citation is not the best thing. If you can find out what the issue is with that traffic violation, sometimes a warning can get you there a lot better than any citation ever could. It's basing these off the officer having discretion case by case to enforce the law, because what we want is correction, not to just fine people for the sake of fining people. We want to take action that's going to be corrective in nature to stop that from happening again.
So why is it down?
because
Why-
they're choosing to issue warnings.
So is there
over-
a training regimen now that's telling police officers to not write tickets with the right warnings?
I mean, I think we can all agree that the cost of living is up, right? It costs a lot more for your dollar to get by, you know, whether that's you're buying a milk, you know, like we sometimes base it off of our subjective thoughts that, well, we make a pretty good living, but you stop the average citizen, it's hard for them to get by with the money that we have today. So I think officers have a heart and they understand that, and they can see where a warning can make a difference.
Lieutenant Chimino, what do I need to tell you when you pull me over to get you to write me a warning? And also, why are the warnings, why, I guess presumably we have more warnings than tickets.
One, I can't be swayed. I've made up my mind. And a lot of it, like Travis was saying, it's part of the officer's discretion. But a lot of the traffic stops that we're making is because we know who's in the car. We know what they're doing, who they're doing. They're called pretext stops, and they're perfectly legal. The officers are looking to stop another crime, whether it's a burglar or a drug dealer or something like that. That's the reason for a lot of the stops, but particularly with these younger officers who just want to go out there and help everybody. You know what I mean? They want to get to the heart of the crime. Why tickets are down? Well, they're throwing people in jail.
And Lieutenant Mike Hernandez,
So-
why aren't you guys writing tickets?
We've already talked about this. We have less officers today, and we also, in our traffic safety program, have less hours allotted to the officers to work overtime. And I was asked this question the other night, and so I did a little bit, again, over the criminal analyst section. 21,000 vehicle stops last year, 13,343 citations, 6,122 written warnings, 6,370 verbal warnings, and last month alone, 1,367 citations written. So they're doing the best that they can with what they've got.
So you're saying that the police, the volume and, I guess, the fine volume, revenues from fines at the municipal courts due to a shortage of police officers?
It can be. Let's add the average into those 16 officers and go from there. I would start to get a headache if I started to try to do the math. So.
I think at any point, though, you start to interject trying to make money in policing, we've lost our way, right? I mean, we have to be real about that. This is never designed to be something that we can make money to keep us afloat. We're supposed to find ways to police in a way that's going to get corrective action. And you can get that corrective action. I guarantee you call a kid's parent to the scene on a violation, and you get a good understanding that they're willing to fix the problem, then there's no reason to write a citation. You gauge, that's what officers do every day. They gauge what's the appropriate thing to do based off their discretion. Not because it's easier, not because they're trying to make money, it's because they're trying to police in a way that's appropriate.
I'm gonna stay on the same subject, so if you have more to say, you can.
I do. We
So,
also.
hold on a second, let me add.
Oh, okay.
Add to, because you guys gotta get entertained, right? You gotta have some entertainment here. You know, yes you do, yes you do. When I get pulled over by a San Angelo police officer, it's a guaranteed ticket.
That's not true, Joe. We'll evaluate it based off the circumstances.
But I'm an ex-military guy, and I grew up in the Corps Cadets at Texas A&M, and they told me I had to shave every day, and they would check my whiskers and all that kind of stuff. And it all started with this No Shave November thing. Y'all remember the No Shave November, where the cops would let their beards grow out a little bit? And then November became December, and then pretty soon we have like the Mujahideen who are patrolling our streets. We have a lot of facial hair. So is facial hair a good thing or a bad thing? Because it scares me, because I know I'm going to get a ticket from a guy in a beard. Go ahead. I guess I'm going to give it to you, Chris.
All right. So we have standards for the men in our policy where we have to have our hair a certain way. This is one way we can express ourselves. We don't wear gas masks, which is always the argument. That's why you can't have a beard, because it's not a good seal. The only people that wear gas masks are SWAT and riot. And that's it. I like my beard. My wife likes my beard.
Lieutenant Hernandez.
I did want to interject really quick on the citations. The state took away citations from the officers in the schools. That could be some of it as well.
What do you mean they took away the safety?
There's no citation that we can write Class Cs in the school system.
So in the SAISD.
Well, in any ISD.
So when did this happen?
It's been a few years, but I haven't worked the campus in a few years, so.
So has it been in the last 5 years?
I would say it's
believe
about
it's two.
right. About right.
2 or 3 years ago?
2 or 3 years, yeah.
So that might be a
Just
cause of it.
maybe. But anyway, I'm glad you asked about the facial hair, and I'll even throw the tattoos in. So I don't have either or, and I don't know if it's my Halawasponi Indian that I can't grow a beard, but the young officers in our department are actually concerned about that I'm going to take away beards and I'm going to take away your tattoos. I already said that we're 16 short. It wouldn't behoove any chief coming into a department to say, I'm getting rid of 2 good officers right here if they don't get rid of their beard, because I wouldn't do that. And so it's this day and time. This day and time, when the officers would come to us sleeved out with tattoos, we had them sign a waiver to wear long sleeve all year round. We don't do that anymore. It just isn't. We have to have, as long as they're a good officer, we want all some of the folks come out in the military, they want to sort of let loose a little bit, if you will. I'm all for it, as long as it's nice and clean and trim and they're looking good.
And Travis Griffith, Mujahideen or no?
Well, first off, I think Mike is still pretty, even though he can't grow the facial hair. I think that we look alike who we police in a lot of ways, right? The public, this has become something that's changed over the course of the last 15, 20, 30 years, where people have tattoos, people have facial hair. If it looks professional and we're keeping it trimmed appropriately, I don't think anybody gets pulled over by the police and think, oh my God, this guy is a thug. Mm-hmm. If we do look that way, then I think we can address that with how long it is. But keeping it clean, keeping it appropriately, there's nothing wrong with that, because it's about the product that we're producing, not necessarily what that looks like in that package.
All right, moving on to the hard questions. I only have a few more left because we're almost in an hour, and we should be done with this. A healthy municipal budget in Texas means that property taxes fund the fire and police, our public safety. However, right now, fire and police consume about 5% of our sales tax revenue. So we've basically taken over all the property tax revenue, and now we're cutting into sales tax revenue. And this is not healthy because sales tax revenue is volatile. And the police and fire department are probably the reason the city exists. You really want to start, maybe you can add the water department onto that also. And which turns us to expenses and property taxes. Roughly, the San Angelo Police Department is a $25 million operation. Would you all agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Every penny of our property tax rate increases revenue to the city about $850,000. So when you guys are looking at your property tax bill at home, it used to be, $221, now with the 6 schools going down, it's like $180 or something like that, $150. But every penny that goes up, that nets $850,000 for the city. So that puts it into perspective for you and how much policing costs. So the last deal we did with Beacon and Fur was $1.2 million.
1.7.
It was 1.7?
Yes, sir.
But they wanted actually 2.4, 2.5 million. That was the initial ask. They're saying we need that additional revenue every year to fully fund the police. So if they went that high, it might cause the city of San Angelo into the situation where they get more than 3.5% of their revenue over last year, increases for more than 3.5%, forcing a rollback election, which you would have to vote to approve the new tax rate, which would be higher, which primarily would be to pay for police salaries, which salaries right now are at a premium because trained police officers are scarce, especially post-2020 BLM riots and things like that. Would you go to the voters, Lieutenant Mike Hernandez, and tell them, I'm Mike Hernandez, I need this much money, and you're going to have to approve this rollback election and raise your property taxes above that 3.5% threshold, which means they'd have to go to the polls and vote for that tax increase to fund your department. Would you do it?
So, I know that in-house, there's some things that we could look at our own budget and save some dollars to try to move some dollars around. I know that our budget is outdated.
But Mike, hold on a second. Over 90% of your budget is payroll.
Right at 91%.
There's not a whole lot
Yes,
there
sir.
to mess with.
Yes, sir. You're right. And it's about 2.3 for operations. And there's just some cutbacks, you know. For instance, we pay about $6,000 a year for overtime slips. We need to make that electronic. There's $6,000 right there, and I'm not even trying it. I'm not a math guy. I'm getting a headache just talking about this right now. But I also believe that we can work with the city and bring some folks in to help us meet in the middle about there might be some monies just like this, you know, the 3.5% was the initial, and in my 33.5 years we get to 10% because 21 officers are on the books to check out and 6 leave, and we hold on to 15 of them when they make the jump. And so is there some more there? So I don't know that it's necessarily that much that we have to ask for, but if we start putting out a better product, a better officer, and we can work in the middle of trying to work between the city government and the city, what do y'all want? Do you want a better officer? Do you want to hang on to these officers that are leaving, that are, you know, a couple of supervisors that were SWAT guys and highly trained, and others are recruiting them because they're taking them away from us for more money? And all we're asking for is 85 to 90% of our sister cities, because I believe that they'd rather work here than down the road.
Okay, so you're saying that you would?
I would ask.
So
And if the majority says no,
You're saying you would campaign to raise the tax
I
rate?
wouldn't campaign, sir. I know where you're going, and I know you don't like taxes. I don't either. When my taxes went up, I'm like, oh Lord, honey, you're retired. You live on a fixed income. And she goes, I know, fix it.
Sergeant Griffith, would you go out and tell the people, your esteemed constituents here, that at the end of the road, I can't get any more money. We're going to have to do the rollback election just so I can get the payroll I need to run my police department.
So I think at the end of the day, we have to look at the city council as the one that controls the purse strings. And what comes out of the budgets and where we're at. I think there's lots of things we can cut long before we start raising taxes inside of our total city budget. And that it's not incumbent upon the police to hold people hostage, right? There's a total city budget that we can look at cutting in different areas. So I'm sure we love parks. Like I have a kid he's going to be 3 months old, right? I want good parks, but if we don't have police officers to patrol the streets to keep the town safe, then we have to look at where that money is going, and that's ultimately going to be the determination by the other elected officials with the city council, and working through budget, working through the budget hearings with the folks to say, hey, this is what we need, and ultimately, if we get to that point, it's going to be the city council that's going to be pushing for that, and not me. I can tell you what we need, but I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can find a way to get the pay we need for our officers, to have a highly qualified officer that stays. We don't lose them down the road, and we get you the people that you need protecting you.
So you would pass the buck to the mayor?
That's where the responsibility is at, sir, and that's their role.
Lieutenant Chimino.
I don't raise your taxes. None of us do. That's not our job. Our job is to protect you and make sure we're doing the best we can for you. Would I advocate for raising taxes? No, that's ridiculous.
And with that concludes all of my questions. Unless. I'll give us 5 more minutes. We've got 3 people out here that want to ask a question. Y'all come up here if anyone wants to come up. Otherwise, I don't see anyone. I did a good job of asking questions, I guess. No one? All right. That concludes the police chief debate from San Angelo Live. Was it good?
Yeah.
All right. And before we leave, I promised today we have the outros. You got 3 minutes each. I guess we're on Griffith.
Okay.
All right, go for it.
I'm going to start by saying that, again, whether or not it's Mike, whether or not it's Chris, whether it's Joe, whether it's other officers that work at our department, I want to make sure that we hold unity in this community, right? That's why I say that. I don't want anybody to throw rocks at Joe because we had that little deal at the Tea Party. I want it to be open and fair, and I don't have any issues with Mike and Chris. I don't want there to be any issues. I want us to run on who we are and what we stand for, and you find somebody that closely aligns to who you feel is going to represent you, right? Best. You know, sometimes at the state level or the federal level, sometimes it's pretty far away from where it aligns to where you're at, but you get as close as where you can, right? I think right here we have great qualified individuals that are out here running and representing you, right? At the end of the day, I believe I'm the best guy for this job. And I tell you because I stand in between generations, right? To help reach our younger generation. We need to put more time and energy into our youth. We have to be able to reach them. TikTok and social media, that's what's driving the bus right now. Let's build real relationships with them. Let's get back into some drug education programs through DARE and we had a ADAC here that we can partner with to be able to have a chance to help curb some of that supply and demand side. If we could stop some of that, imagine if we can enforce 20% on one side and then reduce 20% on the consumption side. We have a 40% reduction in drugs, which drives the bus in a lot of ways. We do that in a way that's conservatively responsible. We work with our community partners like the sheriffs who's in audit right now. We try to find ways that we can do so that's going to help lead us into the future. I think San Angelo can be a light on a hill, right? It can be an example of what we can do to stand together for justice and truth and righteousness in a world that's lost its mind. And I think if we do that together, then we'll have a safer, more transparent, and accountable police department. And I ask that you vote for me.
I've never asked for anybody to vote for me, and I'm not going to today. Y'all need to look at everything that each candidate offers. Make your own decision. Talk to those who work with us closely. Talk to the officers. Talk to our friends. Talk to your friends. Make your decision based on all the available information. And if that's the best way you're going to decide. That's how y'all are going to get the best candidate, is by looking everything over yourself, making your own decisions, no matter what somebody else says. We have friends. People love us. We love them as well. But when it comes down to it, your opinion matters just as much as theirs, and sometimes even more. That's about all I got to say. Go ahead, Mike.
If you'll go to mikeforchief.com, you'll see all the boards in the community I've served in my entire career. I didn't just start a couple years ago. I'm currently on the Children's Advocacy Center Board of Directors. I serve on the board at House of Faith, and I serve on the board with the Boy Scouts. I'm involved in our community outside the department. Inside the department, I'm the only one that's been to the FBI National Academy for a 10-week leadership course where 1%ers from around the world, 27 countries, 47 states represented. If you look at my website as well, you'll see retired chiefs, assistant chiefs, Texas Rangers. I could go on and on and on with some of the endorsements that I've received for what I believe are some of the very influential leaders in our community, inside and out. And some of those are chiefs that were former SAPD that I worked with. I believe that I'm the best candidate for this job, and I'll continue. The only promise I make is that I'll continue to work for you and for our officers. Thank you very much.
Let me have three of y'all stand up. Let's give them, running for office is hard. So let's give them a quick standing ovation.
That's got to be the most important intro I've ever said.
Thank y'all very much. And for San Angelo Live, I'm Joe Hyde. Yantis Green, who introduced us, Lucas Bunda, and John Bellini in the back, who doesn't have his shirt on.
James.
James, I'm sorry. John Bellini's over here. That's his brother. He's a police officer. James Bellini in the back with Lucas Banda. Thank y'all all for coming out. We really appreciate it. And continue to read SanAngeloLive.com.